Mike is 47 years old. He's parked in a Walmart lot somewhere off the highway. It's 2:38 in the morning. The thermometer outside reads 34 degrees. He's trying to call his 9-year-old son who has a fever at home, somewhere 400 kilometers away. The call drops. He tries again. Drops again. On the third attempt, the boy picks up. Mike has 90 seconds before he needs to hang up and try to sleep, because at 6 a.m. the federal clock starts again, and the load needs to be delivered by 2 p.m. tomorrow. He's not in a hotel. He's not in a warm room. He's in a truck cab the size of a small bathroom with the APU, an auxiliary generator, working to keep the temperature above freezing inside while the winter wind hammers the side of the vehicle. He's not going to sleep well. He never does when his son is sick, but he will wake up at 5:45 anyway. He will make coffee in a 12-volt coffee maker mounted on the dashboard. He will check the truck. He will pull back onto the highway. And he will do it all over again. While you are watching this, there are more than 3.5 million people in that situation across North America, and most of us have never stopped to think about a single one of them. That changes now. The world that exists while you sleep. Let's start with something simple. Tomorrow morning, when you open your fridge, I want you to do one thing. Look at every item inside. The fruit, the milk, the bread, the medicine in your bathroom cabinet, the gas you put in your car this week, the phone in your hand right now. Every single one of those things got to you because someone drove alone in the dark for hours, sometimes days, away from their family, cold, exhausted, with a clock counting down against them, so that you could grab it without thinking twice. 90% of all consumer goods in North America are transported by truck. That is not a figure of speech. That is the real number. 90% of everything you eat, wear, use, and consume arrived in a cab like Mike's. And here is what most people don't know. When you go to sleep at 11 p.m., their work doesn't stop. While you are in bed, there are truck drivers crossing mountain passes in brutal snowstorms. There are drivers hauling medical supplies to hospitals overnight. There are drivers sitting at loading docks waiting 4 hours to unload. Time that isn't paid, that no one will compensate, that simply disappears from the clock of their lives. And in the morning, when you open your fridge, none of that shows up. It's invisible. What the family pays. This is the chapter truck drivers rarely talk about. Not because they don't feel it, but because the culture of this profession teaches that complaining is weakness. The road selects people who endure in silence. Mike's son is 9 years old. Since Mike went back to long-haul routes, when his son was 4, there have been things Mike has not seen. The first goal in a hockey game. The school play where the boy had the lead role. The 7th birthday where his mother had to explain that Dad was working. The night the boy had a high fever and Mike was 800 kilometers away with the road closed by a blizzard. This is not the exception. This is the routine. The divorce rate among long-haul truck drivers is significantly higher than the national average. Not because these men and women don't love their families, but because a relationship cannot easily survive 200 nights of absence per year, indefinitely. Think about that number for a second. 200 nights, every year, away from home, away from the people they love, away from bedtime routines, weekend breakfasts, school pickups, family dinners. The ordinary moments that turn out to be the ones that matter most when you look back. And there is something even heavier than the divorce. It is the moment the driver realizes the window has closed. He worked 25 years on the road. He gave everything he had to support his family, paid the truck financing, paid for the kids' school, kept the lights on. And when he finally stops, when the body can't take it anymore or retirement arrives, the children are already adults. They have their own lives. The relationship carries an emotional distance that 25 years of absences quietly built. And what does he put in the place of the road? Nothing. Because the road was everything he was. That is what the invisible work charges. Not just from the driver, from every family around him. What it does to the body. Long-haul truck drivers have an obesity rate of 69%, compared to 31% of the general working population. That number is not an accident. You spend 11 hours sitting. Your meal options are gas stations, roadside diners, or whatever you manage to store in a 12-volt mini fridge. The stress is constant. Delivery deadlines, weather, traffic, the legal weight of the load, inspection scales every few hundred kilometers. Sleep is irregular and never truly restorative. Repeat that 200 nights a year for 20 years. What happens? High blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, chronic back pain, sleep apnea, a condition where a person stops breathing during sleep, wakes up dozens of times per night without realizing it, and never reaches real rest. And here is the part that rarely gets talked about. Studies show that approximately 27% of long-haul truck drivers show symptoms of clinical depression, nearly double the average working population. But here is the cruelest part. Many drivers avoid a sleep apnea diagnosis because they are afraid of losing their commercial license. So they drive fatigued, without treatment, without a diagnosis, controlling a 40-ton machine on a highway at 110 kilometers per hour because stopping means losing income. And losing income means the family suffers. So they keep going. They always keep going. The price nobody sees. Now let's talk about numbers that make this impossible to ignore. In the United States, there is one legal truck parking space for every 11 drivers on the road. One space. For every 11 drivers. That means every single night, not sometimes, every single night. When the federal clock forces these drivers to stop because driving beyond the limit is a crime, most of them are looking for a place that simply does not exist. They park on highway shoulders, in supermarket parking lots, in empty industrial lots at 3 in the morning, in places that are sometimes not safe, not by choice, out of pure necessity. Now think about what that means in practice. The driver woke up at 4:30 a.m. He drove 11 hours inside a 14-hour work window. He lost 3 hours waiting at a loading dock to unload, time that wasn't paid, that nobody is going to compensate him for. Now his clock is at the limit. He's looking for a spot, and he cannot find one. He has two bad options. Either he parks illegally, risking a fine, risking the commercial license that is his only source of income, or he keeps driving beyond what safety allows. On most nights, he finds an improvised solution. A Walmart parking lot that tolerates trucks, a gas station that doesn't lock the gate, an industrial street where nobody calls the police, and he sleeps there, alone, in the cold, with the generator making enough noise that deep sleep is never really possible. This happens 200 nights a year for most long-haul drivers, 200 nights away from home, 200 nights in parking lots, 200 nights trying to sleep while the world around them keeps moving. The story that changed everything. On March 5, 2009, a 35-year-old driver named Jason Rivenburg arrived early at a food distribution center in South Carolina with a load of milk. The facility turned him away. His appointment was the next morning. With no truck stop nearby and his hours of service clock running out, Rivenburg parked at the only available spot he could find, an abandoned gas station on the side of the road. That night, a man entered the truck and shot him for $7. Jason Rivenburg left behind a wife named Hope, who was pregnant with twins at the time of his death. She gave birth to their twins less than 2 weeks later. And then she did something that most people in that level of grief never find the strength to do. She spent the next 3 years lobbying Congress, with newborn twins in tow, traveling to Washington, sitting in meetings, telling her husband's story over and over again to people in suits who had never spent a single night in a truck cab in their lives. In July 2012, Jason's law was signed into the Federal Transportation Bill, the first national recognition in American history that truck parking is not just a logistical inconvenience, it is a public safety issue. It took the murder of a man, the persistence of a grieving widow, and 3 years of political fighting to make that happen. And yet, today, more than a decade later, the math has barely moved. There are still not enough spaces. Drivers are still parking in abandoned lots because no legal spot exists. The song keeps getting shorter, and the chairs keep disappearing. Jason Rivenburg died because there was nowhere safe for him to sleep. And tonight, somewhere on a highway, Another driver is facing the exact same choice he faced. Back to Mike. It is 6:02 a.m. Mike is back on the road. His son took his medicine. The fever dropped during the night. His wife sent a message at 5 a.m. He read it when he woke up. The road ahead is covered in packed snow. The radio says the temperature will drop further before midday. There's a long stretch with no fuel station between him and the next approved stop. He knows the route. He has made this run dozens of times. By the afternoon, when the load arrives at its destination, someone will sign the delivery document. The product goes to the warehouse. From the warehouse to the supermarket. From the supermarket to your home. And you will put it in the fridge without thinking twice. Mike doesn't want your pity. He chose this life. And there are parts of it. The freedom of the open road, the independence, the landscapes that most people never see, that he wouldn't trade. What Mike wants, what 3.5 million drivers across North America want, is simple. A safe place to sleep when the clock runs out. A system that recognizes that time spent waiting at a dock has value and should be paid. Recognition that the person keeping the shelves full, the hospitals supplied, and the country running is not a background character in someone else's story. They are the story. And the next time you are on a highway and a truck passes you, or you pass one parked alone in a dark lot at 2 in the morning, I want you to think about what is happening inside that cab. Someone is trying to sleep, trying to call home, trying to hold it all together on not enough rest, not enough pay, and not enough recognition. For the drivers watching this right now, what was the hardest moment you have ever had on the road? The night you don't forget. The moment you never told anyone about because you thought nobody would understand. Leave it in the comments. I want to know. And the people watching this need to know too. For everyone who has never driven a truck in their life, what in this video had you never thought about before? Which part changed how you will look at the next truck you see on the road? Every comment helps more people understand what happens while they sleep. And if this is the kind of content you want, the real stories of the people who keep this world running, invisible, every single night, hit subscribe. There is a lot more of this coming. See you next time.